This is Tony T here from Tony'sPicks.com with our college football pick show. This is week 6, part 3. 15 more for you guys here on this release. As we do them in parts. I think that'll take us to 30. It's already so far for the week when we get this one in. So you can check our channel for the rest of them. For more free pick videos, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Lots of free picks over our channel, delivered by myself as well as our team of cappers here at Tony'sPicks.com. It's a great channel to subscribe to. Hit us up with that like, that thumbs up. It's greatly appreciated. And then visit our site, Tony'sPicks.com. We're a multi-capper site showcasing our top performers. Click the links to the hot cappers. Get signed up to long-term passes. You see our top performers up here like Sean Higgs, Rod Zawacki up there. Bryant Biller's been red hot the last 30 days up there. You see these folks on our YouTube channel as well as a live show. Brian Palmer has been hot as well on the channel. Ramon's hitting the leaderboard. Latest pretty picture set on the page with best bets and more. We will be locked and loaded here for this card on Thursday. Remember, all of our one-day passes are profit guaranteed. They must turn our profit amount purchased is credit back to your account for site credits. That is profit guaranteed. And then our promo code TonyT at checkout will knock off that 15%. The link there is in the description to get signed up. So let's get this one underway. All right, we start off here with Virginia and Louisville for Saturday. Virginia now 4-1 after a 46-38 home victory against Florida State in overtime. Cavs rushed for 211 yards for 4.4 yards a carry. They allowed 514 yards to Seminoles, struggling defending the run and pass. Chad Morris here, North Texas transfer, completed 26 of 35 passes, 229 yards with 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. He rushed for 3 touchdowns in the game. Louisville now 4-0 after their 34-27 road victory at Pittsburgh. Cardinals overcame a 17-0 deficit after one quarter. They struggled to run the football and move the football through the air. They contained the Panthers on the ground but allowed 259 yards passing for 8.1 yards per pass attempt. Miller Moss here, 33 of 51 passing for 339 yards with 3 touchdowns and a pick. He had a rushing touchdown in the game. Virginia's gone over in all 5 games behind their North Texas transfer quarterback and their up-tempo style. The Cavs rush for nearly 6 yards a carry. They're getting accurate, efficient passing as they throw for 296 yards a game. This up-tempo will take a toll, though, on their defense as this season progresses. Louisville has excelled through the air this season, averaging 279 yards a game with accuracy at the quarterback and 7.8 yards per pass attempt. Cardinals are 9-5 the over as a home favorite. Pick here Virginia and Louisville to go over 61. Central Michigan and Akron. This one going off on Saturday. We've got here Central Michigan now 3-2 after a 24-13 home victory against Eastern Michigan. Chippewas rushed for 306 yards, and that's 6 yards a carry in the game for them. They limited the Eagles on the ground and allowed 175 yards passing for 6.3 yards per pass attempt. Joe Labas here, 14 of 16 passing, 138 yards and a touchdown. Akron, they're now 1-4. A 45-3 road defeat to Toledo. Zips rushed for under 2 yards a carry and ineffective in the passing game. They allowed 545 yards to the Zips. They were unable to stop the run or pass. Ben Finley in the game missed the game due to injury. Michael Johnson, 7 of 13 passing, just 28 yards. Akron quarterback situation is concerned. The Chippewas are a high-volume rushing team that can just make big plays in the passing game. Akron is getting bad quarterback play, and their defense doesn't stop anything. The Chips can grind it on the ground and on the road here to a cover. We'll take Central Michigan -8. Syracuse and SMU for Saturday. Syracuse drops to 3-2 after their 38-3 home defeat to Duke. The Orange rushed for 3.1 yards a carry and was ineffective in the passing game. They allowed 235 yards rushing to the Blue Devils for 6.4 yards a carry and 9.6 yards per pass attempt. Ricky Collins, 24 of 37 passing for 229 yards with a pick. SMU fell to 2-2 with a 35-24 road defeat to TCU. Mustangs rushed for 3.5 yards a carry but moved the football through the air. They allowed 3.7 yards per rush to the Horned Frogs, but 379 yards passing for 9.5 yards per pass attempt. Kevin Jennings here, 24 of 38 passing for 290 yards with 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. Injury to Syracuse starting quarterback Steve Angeli is massive here. Looks like a drop in class to Collins. Syracuse defense is allowing 5.5 yards a carry with 291 yards passing. SMU passing attack has been accurate and efficient. The Orange 0-5 the spread on the road, facing teams that allow 5.9 yards per play or fewer. The Mustangs are 7-1 the spread at home following a road game. Pick here SMU minus 17.5. Boise State and Notre Dame going off on Saturday. Boise State now 3-1 after a 47-14 home victory at App State. Broncos rushed for 3.5 yards a carry and are effective in the passing game. They held the Mountaineers to 65 yards passing. Max Madison here, 25 of 37 passing for 321 yards with 4 touchdowns. Notre Dame 2-2 after a 56-13 road victory at Arkansas. Pine Irish gained 641 yards with exceptional rushing and passing. They allowed 158 yards rushing to the Razorbacks for 5.3 yards a carry and limited them through the pass. C.J. Carr, 22 of 30 for 354 yards and 4 touchdowns. Boise State improved since their opening loss at USF. They have been efficient on offense with 5.9 yards per rush and 300 yards passing for 8.5 yards per pass attempt. Notre Dame has issues defending the pass, allowing 269 yards per game, 7.7 yards per pass attempt. They are 1-3 to the spread at home, following a road win. Pick here Boise State plus 20.5. James Madison and Georgia State going off on Saturday. James Madison improved to 3-1 after their 35-10 home victory against Georgia Southern. The Dukes rushed for 331 yards for 6.2 yards a carry. They limited yardage through the air. They held the Eagles to 27 yards rushing for 6.9 yards per pass attempt. Alonzo Barnett here in the game, 11 of 22 passing for 148 yards with a touchdown. He had a rushing score. Georgia State drops to 1-3 with a 70-21 road defeat at Vanderbilt. The Panthers rushed for 32 yards and were ineffective in the passing game. They gave up 634 yards to the Commodores and were unable to stop the run or pass. T.J. Finley, 22 of 35 passing for 176 yards and 2 touchdowns. Georgia State has failed to cover 7 of 8. They are giving up 48 points per game and 5.6 yards per rush, 9.1 yards per pass attempt. JMU is playing great defense, holding opponents at 2.9 yards per rush, 47% completion rate. The Dukes 7-4 the spread as road favorite. Pick here James Madison minus 19.5. Miami, Ohio, and Northern Illinois for Saturday. Miami O improved to 1-3 after a 38-9 home victory at FCS Lindenwood. The prior week it was a 41-38 home defeat to UNLV. The Red Hawks moved the football effectively through the air, but 131 rushing and 6 yards a carry. On defense, they allowed 515 yards to the Rebels with poor work against the run and pass. Daquan Finn here, 7-12 passing for 131 yards with 2 touchdowns and a pick. He left the game due to injury and missed last week. Henry Heston here, 8-17 in relief for 134 yards and a score. Northern Illinois sits at 1-3 after a 6-3 home defeat to San Diego State. Huskies rushed for 3 yards a carry and were ineffective in the passing game. They limited the Aztecs' passing game, allowed 151 yards rushing for 3.4 yards a carry. Josh Holst in the game, 6-14 passing for 49 yards. Miami, Ohio quarterback situation is a concern here. The Huskies have defended well this year. They faced a tough schedule with Mississippi State and Maryland on the road. Miami, Ohio has no wins against FBS competition, so we'll take Northern Illinois here, plus 5. Monroe and Northwestern going off here on Saturday. We got the Monroe now 3-1 after a 28-16 home victory against Arkansas State. The Warhawks rushed for 217 yards for 6.6 yards a carry and were able to move the football through the air. They limit the Red Wolves to 17 rushing yards and 6.2 yards per pass attempt. Aiden Armenta, 16 of 25 passes for 175 yards with 2 touchdowns and a pick. Northwestern now 2-2 after a 17-14 home victory here against UCLA. The Wildcats built a 17-0 second quarter lead and held on to victory. They rushed for 199 yards for 4.7 yards a carry with ineffective passing. They allowed 4.5 yards a carry to the Bruins on the ground and 180 yards passing for 4.5 yards a carry per pass attempt, I should say. Preston Stone here, 12 of 18 passing, 115 yards and a touchdown. UL Monroe rushing for 5.9 yards a carry and have been good stopping the run, just 2.9 yards allowed per carry. Northwestern is struggling defending the run, giving almost 5.5 yards a carry. They're getting poor quarterback play. The Warhawks 3-1 to the spread as an underdog of 10.5 to 21 points. Northwestern 1-5 here to the spread in back-to-back home games. Pick here UL Monroe plus 11.5. Oregon State and Appalachian State, this one for Saturday. Oregon State fell to 0-5 after a 27-24 home defeat to Houston in overtime. The Beavers rushed for 189 yards for 3.9 yards a carry and moved the football through the air. They held the Cougars to under 3 yards per rush, but 270 yards passing allowed for 7.5 yards per pass attempt. Mick Murphy here, 20 of 33 passes for 201 yards with a touchdown. App State now 2-2 after a 47-14 road defeat at Boise State. Mountaineers were poor in the passing game and rushed for 119 yards for 4.1 yards a carry. Defensively, they allowed 3.5 yards per rush to the Broncos, but 321 yards passing for 8.4 yards per pass attempt. A.J. Swan here, 11 of 24 passing for 64 yards with a touchdown and 2 picks. Oregon State is desperate for a win and have played a tougher schedule. App State got past FCS Lindenwood at home by only 7 points, scoring just 20 points. Mountaineers 0-3 of the spread as a home favorite. Pick here Oregon State plus 1.5. Vanderbilt and Alabama. We'll get it right here for Saturday. All right, we've got Vanderbilt 5-0 after their 55-35 home victory against Utah State. Commodores gained 543 yards with success rushing and passing. They allowed 4.8 yards a carry to the Aggies with 274 passing yards for 7.2 yards per pass attempt. Diego Pavia, 26 of 34 for 321 yards, 5 touchdowns and a pick. He rushed for 75 yards and a score. Alabama 3-1 after a 24-21 road victory in Georgia. The Crimson Tide rushed for just 3 yards a carry, but successful in the passing game. They limited the Bulldogs on the ground, but surrendered 227 yards rushing for 6.9 yards per rush. Tide Simpson in the game, 24 of 38 passing for 276 yards. 2 touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown. Vanderbilt's offensive numbers are good. 6.7 yards a carry, 71% completion rate for 9.5 yards per pass attempt. They have defended well, allowing 3 yards per rush and 5.9 yards per pass attempt. Alabama ground attack has been limited to 3.9 yards a carry. The Commodores 7-4 the spread as a road underdog. Pick here Vanderbilt plus 10.5. Washington and Maryland going off here on Saturday. We got Washington here falling to 3-1 here after a 24-6 home defeat to Ohio State. The Huskies rushed for only 2 yards a carry and struggled in the passing game. They allowed 149 yards rushing to the Buckeyes for 4.4 yards a carry, with 208 yards passing for 7.4 yards per pass attempt. Devin Williams here, 18 of 22 passing for 173 yards. Maryland now 4-0 after a 27-10 road win at Wisconsin. Terrapins rushed for 61 yards, but effectively threw the football. He limited the Badgers to 1.5 yards per rush and 235 yards passing for 6.7 yards per pass attempt. Malik Washington in the game, 18 of 34 for 265 yards with 2 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. Maryland has the better quality win going to Wisconsin with a sound victory. They are moving the football through the air and defending well, holding teams at 2.5 yards per rush and 5.6 yards per pass attempt. Washington 3-7 to the spread on the road against the conference. Pick here will be on Maryland plus 6.5. All right, next up, Penn State and UCLA going off here on Saturday. All right, we got Penn State 3-1 after a 30-24 home defeat to Oregon. The Lions rushed for 4 yards at carry and were ineffective in the passing game. They allowed 176 yards rushing to the Ducks for 4.5 yards at carry, along with 248 passing yards for 6.2 yards per pass attempt. Drew Allar, 14-25 passing for 137 yards with 2 touchdowns and a pick. UCLA sits at 0-4. A 17-14 road defeat at Northwestern. The Bruins fell behind 17-0 in the second quarter and couldn't rally all the way back. They rushed for 131 yards for 4.5 yards a carry. They surrendered 200 yards rushing to the Wildcats for 4.7 yards a carry and limited their passing game. Nico Ileva, 19-27 passes for 180 yards and a touchdown. He rushed for 65 yards in the game. UCLA has been blown out in their 2 home games by 33 to Utah, 25 to New Mexico. Penn State is balanced offensively as they're rushing for over 5 yards a carry and effectively throwing the football. They got that experience at quarterback. Nittany Lions defense holds opponents to 3.3 yards per rush and 5.2 yards per pass attempt. The Bruins in their home losses allowed nearly 6 yards a carry on the ground, 79% completions, 8.5 yards per pass attempt. Nittany Lions coming off of the loss of the Ducks will look to impress with their bounce back spot here with their foot on the pedal. This is a foot on the pedal spot here. Penn State 3-0 to the spread as road favorite, 21.5 to 31 points. UCLA 4-10 to the spread at home. Pick here will be on Penn State minus 24.5. Whoops, sorry, I had the wrong game up there. How did I screw that up? Hang on. I went through this whole thing with that game up there. Oh boy. Hang on one second here. Nope. I made things even worse. What am I doing here? Let's see. Yeah, we want Penn State in the game. We want to show you the right graphic. There we go. How did we screw that up? All right, we got Texas and Florida going off on Saturday. Texas now 3-1 after a 55-0 home victory against Sam Houston State. Longhorns gained 607 yards in the game, effective rushing and passing. They limited the Bearcats to 27 yards rushing and 86 passing. Arch Manning, 18-21 passing, 309 yards with 3 touchdowns. He rushed for 2 scores. Florida 1-3 after a 26-7 road defeat to Miami. The Gators, struggled on the ground with 2.8 yards per rush and ineffective passing. They allowed 184 yards rushing to the Hurricanes with 4 yards a carry and limited their passing game. G.J. Lagway, 12-23 passing for 61 yards. Florida has been held to 16 or fewer points in their past 3 games, all resulting in defeats. Texas offense balanced nearly 5 yards per rush, 8.1 yards per pass attempt. They defended the run and pass well. The Gators have been inefficient in the passing game. Both teams coming off a bye. Longhorns 3-0 to the spread as a road favorite of 7 or fewer points. Pick here, Texas, laying the 6.5. FIU and UConn going off here on Saturday. All right, we've got here FIU 2-2 after a 38-16 home defeat to Delaware. The Panthers rushed for 160 yards for 4.7 yards a carry, but were inefficient in the passing game. They allowed 140 rushing yards to the Blue Hens with 4.5 yards a carry with limited production in the passing game. Hayon Jenkins, 22 of 34 passing for 203 yards with a touchdown and 2 picks. He had a rushing score. UConn 3-2 after a 20-17 road victory at Buffalo. Huskies rushed for 165 yards for 5.3 yards a carry, but inefficient in the passing game. They limited the Bulls' passing game, but allowed 204 rushing yards for 4.9 yards a carry here. Joe Fagnano, 19 of 31 passing, 155 yards with a touchdown. He rushed for 65 yards in the game. Huskies have been competitive in their games. They have been efficient offensively, about 6.5 yards per rush, 269 yards passing for 7.3 yards per pass attempt. FIU has not been efficient passing on the year. UConn battled Syracuse to a 7-point road loss. We'll take UConn here laying the 7. Texas State and Arkansas State going off on Saturday. Texas State sits at 3-1 after a 35-3 home victory at FCS school Nicholls State. 2 weeks ago, it was a 34-15 road defeat at Arizona State. The Bobcats rushed for 119 yards for 2.8 yards a carry with ineffective passing. They surrendered 245 yards rushing to the Sun Devils for 5.8 yards a carry, along with 7.5 yards per pass attempt. Brad Jackson in the game, 25-26 passing for 184 yards and a score. He had a rushing touchdown. Arkansas State filed a 1-4 with a 28-16 road defeat to UL Monroe. Red Wolves rushed for only 17 yards, were inefficient in the passing game. They allowed 217 rushing yards to the Warhawks for 6.6 yards a carry, along with 7 yards per pass attempt. Jalen Raynor in the game, 29-46 passing, 288 yards and a touchdown. The Red Wolves have covered both of their home games. They battled Iowa State at home to an 8-point loss. The Bobcats defense on the road allowing 35 points a game with 6.4 yards per rush, 449 yards overall per game. At home, the Red Wolves have been effectively, throwing the football, limiting opponents on the ground and through the air. They are 5-3 to the spread as home dog. Pick here will be on. Again, what did we do here? Put the wrong game up there again? Hang on a second, guys. There we go. The pick here will be on Arkansas State here at plus the 13.5. All right, we got Michigan State and Nebraska going off here on Saturday. Michigan State fell to 3-1 after a 45-31 road defeat here at USC. Spartans rushed for 112 yards for 3.5 yards a carry and effective in the passing game. They surrendered 523 yards to the Trojans, struggling both in defending the run and pass. Aiden Childs, 12-21 passes for 212 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown in the game. Nebraska 3-1 after a 30-27 home defeat to Michigan. Cornhuskers were held to 43 rushing yards, but moved the football effectively through the air. They limited the Wolverines' passing attack, but allowed 286 yards rushing for 8.7 yards a carry. Dylan Riallo, 30-41 passing for 308 yards with 3 touchdowns and a pick. Both teams come off a bye. The Spartans were effective throwing the football against USC's defense in that road defeat. On the year, they're completing 68% of their throws, 8.4 yards per attempt, and they're putting up 34 points a game. The Cornhuskers are struggling to stop the run by allowing 5.3 yards a carry, with 175 yards rushing per game. Nebraska 0-5 the spread at home, facing teams that allow 120 yards rushing per game or fewer. Pick here Michigan State, plus the 11.5. For more free pick videos, be sure to subscribe to our channel. We have lots of free picks over our channel, delivered stuff, as well as our team of cappers here at Tony'sPicks.com, making this a great channel to subscribe to. Give us a like, a thumbs up. It really helps us out. We greatly appreciate that. And then visit our site, Tony'sPicks.com. You'll get our best bets. Our premium plays are there. And remember, our promo code at TonyT at checkout knocks off that 15%. The link is in the description to get signed up. That will do it for now. I'm Tony T, and we'll talk later.